Welcome to the Action Network podcast. This week's NFL Roundtable. My name's Matt Moore. I'm the NBA senior writer for the Action Network, but Brendan Glasheen decided to get married during football season. Not great, Brendan. He'll be back next week. You can catch me here with you throughout the week. Glad to have you with us for this NFL Roundtable. Joining us this week, Evan Abrams, our director of research, the man of 1,000 trends, and professional bettor Simon Hunter, star of the favorites, with everyone's favorite Chad Millman. Simon, thanks so much for taking a few minutes away from Chad talking about the Bears, Wright Thompson for the millionth time, and his love for, well, you.
No, happy to be here, boys, talking football.
All right, let's get right into it, guys. Give me your biggest week 4 takeaway. Obviously, a lot of crazy things going on in the league as we still see the public suffering in against the spread. Evan, what was your biggest week 4 takeaway?
I don't know if it's necessarily just a week 4 takeaway, but it's a few things just overall from the season, let's call it so far. So tight point spreads, lack of big point spreads, competition being relatively close. Right now, through 4 weeks, favorites average spread about 4.2, which would be the lowest since 1982, if you count 82, which was the strike. It's the lowest ever through 4 weeks. So we're just not seeing big spreads. So I think that's one kind of takeaway if you're a gambler, just, betting every single week. But I think from like an on the field perspective, we saw some better offense this past week. Points were up like 1.8 points per game per team, which is noteworthy. Pass attempts, completions, everything seemed to tick up a tiny bit. So I think that's one storyline. The other one is just, damn, how important, and I just wrote this down literally under it, coaches, quarterbacks, and offensive line. It's just when I'm handicapping games every single week and watching just some of these dumb decisions that some of these coaches are making when others don't seem to be making those same dumb decisions. It's just something that is top of mind currently.
Yeah, it's interesting on the quarterbacks front because so many of them seem to, I don't know, what's the word, suck ass. And so with so many of them being so bad, I kind of feel like there's like an increased premium on good running games. And we saw that first, like the couple of first 3 weeks. And then week 4, we've kind of seen some of the overs start to tick over. Some of the offense kind of opened up. Simon, when you look at week 4, what's been your biggest takeaway so far through this first quarter of the season?
I would say to most fans, it kind of finally felt like the NFL was the NFL, right? We actually had some fluency in offense, right? These teams just weren't 3 and out, no rhythm, because these referees got blown to dead every play. They kind of let the boys play for the most part in most games I watched, right? They weren't calling their flag on every little thing, which I think the guys up top called down to them and just said, listen, our product's suffering. You guys just can't keep ruining these games. It's going to be sloppy, right? We talked about that. Them not playing in the preseason, people can deny it all they want. The proof's in the pudding. Like we see these teams just aren't in rhythm for the first 2-3 weeks now. So for me, that's a big takeaway from the football side. For the betting side, it's all about these dogs. Like it's been incredible betting these dogs against the spread and just how bad the public has been doing, where they're just every week overreacting to the previous week, right? And I think we'll see it this whole week, right? Everyone's talking about how great Jaden Daniels is and how amazing this offense is, and everyone's really excited about this rookie quarterback, which he should be getting his flowers. But this is just such a week-to-week league where it's like, okay, are the Vikings really the second best team in football, like ESPN's putting out there? No, I don't think any of us think they really are, but that's what we do, right? It's all reactionary. So that to me is my biggest takeaway is the public has just been overreacting to a lot of games this year. And the bettors have been finding great value.
Yeah, every week in the group chat I have with Brandon Anderson and the Ringers Raheem Palmer, I ask, okay, who had the biggest win this week and who had the worst loss? Because like that's a great way to find who the public is going to absolutely freak out about. All right, so you mentioned the dogs. Dogs of 6+ have absolutely dominated. 9-8 straight up and 14-2-1 for a cool 87.5% through the first 4 weeks, covering the spread by 7.3 points per game. That's the best start since 1960. That's via, Evan with the trends. Week 5, the big dogs are New Orleans, the Giants, Arizona. I want you to pick your favorite of those. Evan, what are your thoughts on those big dogs?
It just ain't the Giants. That's all I really got to say. That's just a bad spot with Seattle. I know Seattle's on a short week, but we saw Walker get going and kind of Seattle's offense did just fine in the second half. So I would say the Giants are not the pick. So to me, it's New Orleans or Arizona. I would probably lean Arizona. I said it on the podcast Sunday night. I like the 7.5. It's the biggest spread on the board right now, but I haven't seen updated news. Maybe Simon knows more. Hopefully we get McBride back, and hopefully Arizona's offense looks a little bit better after a down week. So I'll buy the dip back and probably say Arizona. I'll take the hook.
Okay, so you said that the Giants are just too gross. So Simon, I fully expect them to be in the Faves 5 coming up on favorites, considering how disgusting that would be. What's your pick for one of those dogs that you think has a great chance this week?
I'm going to keep going after the defending Super Bowl champs, the Chiefs team. I've just been attacking the line against them every week. And, obviously it hasn't worked some weeks, right? Week when I took them, then every other week I bet against them. And it's a team that just seems to me they're a little lost trying to find their identity on offense. And this is when you want to bet against Mahomes. Like, I'm going to be terrified to even touch a number against him in December, because by then they're going to have an identity. They'll have a rhythm to this offense and the defense, right? I think they're going to keep getting better as the season goes along. Right now, I feel like they're still just overvalued by public opinion. Now here comes the Saints team, a team off a loss that, that was a coin flip game. If they would have won that game, what's the spread? 3.5, 4 maybe? Feels like we're getting a free 1.5 of value, especially because it's the Chiefs. So no shocker to anyone. I talked to a bookmaker yesterday. It's the number one tease team right now is the Chiefs, right? Everyone's just going to have them in the teaser. They're 4-0. They're just ripe for an upset. So I'm going to be taking the Saints on the number and taking a little bit on the money line.
Yeah, Saints down to -5.5 in the market. So that's obviously like the pros are coming in and jumping on that, as well as the books are protecting against them.
Yeah, that look ahead was 8. So
yeah,
you know it.
8. As a Chiefs fan, I keep looking at these spreads and being like, really? Like, have you watched them? Like, have you seen them? Okay. Another big, obviously, theme this season is all the rookie quarterbacks. Return of the rookies. Caleb had a decent week with a good efficiency and a win that I'm going to be mad about until the end of the season. Jaden, absolutely on fire. Looks like not just an offensive rookie of the year candidate, but like an MVP candidate with how he started. And then there's Bo Nix, who had negative effing yards at the half. This is like the Godzilla meme or the one with the 3-headed dragon where two of them look very serious and the other one's very derp. Yeah, Bo Nix is the derp there. Pick one to back or fade. Evan, of those three as favorites, which one do you want to go against?
I'm not going to back them because all three rookies won last week and now they're all favorites this week. That's not my appetite. That's not how I go to dinner. That's not how I eat. That's not what I do. So Carolina was the one I went for. I would need over 4, but I just feel like the difference between Dalton and Young and what he's brought to the offense, he scored like 60 points in their last 2 games. Bryce scored that over like the previous 10-game stretch or so, 8-game stretch. It's just a completely different team. Chicago's still trying to figure things out. I just think they're going to score points, even though Chicago's defense, 5th in EPA per play. They were even 5th in EPA per play week 9 on when they got sweat last year. So super consistent, but I'll just take the 4.5 with Carolina.
I want That's Not How I Go to Dinner as a drop. I want that Evan Abrams, That's Not How I Go to Dinner. I want that on a social graphic. That's pretty awesome. I like that. All right, Simon, of these choices, which one do you want to go against? You kind of hinted at it, but which one do you want to go against?
I'm shockingly going to go against Bo Nix. And Evan talked about a little bit, though, how important coaching has been this season. And, obviously Bo Nix won that game against the Jets, right? He's the guy that handled the ball, but that was incredible coaching masterpiece by Sean Payton. Like he just threw out the playbook and was like, all right, we have 3 plays that work. I'm going to randomly sprinkle them in. We'll just pick up, 5-10 yards here at a time if we're possible and maybe get a field goal and get out of here and win this game. And it worked, right? A lot of things broke from that way, but I think the market's overreacted to it too much, right? The fact that they're -2.5 now at home in a divisional game, Evan knows I'm obsessed with the number 2, the point spread. I just think it's such a key, important number. How many weeks have we seen it land on 2 now? Even last week, that Saints Atlanta game, it landed right on 2. It's just such an important number now. So the fact that the Raiders are up to 2.5, I had to take it. I'm a sucker for this team, and I'm hoping when Max Crosby gets cleared or gets, is all good for this game, maybe this number does move back down to 1.5, and I do have good value here. But my biggest overreaction has got to be this Bo Nix line. I can't believe he's almost a 3-point favorite at home.
I'm trying to like restrain myself because obviously not a big Broncos fan, being a Chiefs fan living in
Right.
Denver. That said, I'm offended that this guy with negative yards at half is a 2.5 point favorite
Yeah.
at home. Yeah, you mentioned it was a great masterclass by Sean Payton. The best thing I thought that he did in that game was that he had Robert Saleh be the dumbest human on the planet. Like, that was just a masterclass of having Robert Saleh being completely unfit to coach a football team. On the other side, in terms of the good, the NFC's red hot right now, and it's really impressive to watch. So many fun stories. Washington is 12-1, Minnesota 10-1, Tampa Bay 3-1, Seattle 8-1 lead the way in the NFC. Pick the one that you think has some staying power. I'm really interested on this question because I always think of how long the NFL season is now with 17 weeks. And I'm always like, is this the best that you're going to play? Evan, which of these do you think does have some staying power?
And also, just to be clear, those prices Matt just said, those were the division. I didn't even write this in the script. Those are the division prices for those teams preseason. So those were how long they were to even win it, which is crazy in itself. So Washington 12, Minnesota 10, Tampa Bay 3, Seattle 8. My answer is I could probably make the case for anyone but Minnesota, kind of at this point. I know everyone's going to crown them, but the rest of their division to me is just so difficult that I could see them not winning it more than they can at this point, even though they are undefeated. Washington is the fourth easiest remaining schedule. I know it's even crazy to say, but I would probably lean Washington or Seattle. That would probably be my answer because I do believe that San Francisco has some cracks in the system. I do think they're getting a little long on the tooth. You're seeing it in a bunch of different ways. Now, didn't really expect Jordan Mason to kind of look like Christian McCaffrey anyway, which is definitely helping out their offense at this point. But I think Seattle's dangerous. I know a bunch of us were on them in the preseason. And I think even at this point, seeing how they stayed in that Detroit onslaught last night for at least a little while coming back in the second half kind of proved a little bit of something to me. So Washington or Seattle, that's my answer.
Great stuff there. Simon, your thoughts? I'm hoping you're going to say Buccaneers because I'm like the only human on the planet that has their division.
I can't with the Bucks because I can't figure out that division at all. I just, it's so week to week. It's like I don't know what I'm going to get. All I know is at the end it's going to come down to like those last 2 weeks, right? Just how the NFL wants it. There's a reason the NFL stacks. You know, most teams they stack 3 divisional games end the season. That's going to be the case in the NFC South. It's just, you know, any given Sunday, right? Whoever stays healthy too. That's going to be the key to that division where it's like all those teams, those 3 teams are so top heavy. Where, you know, if Mike Evans goes down, that's going to be a huge deal to the Bucks. If Drake London goes down, that's going to be a huge deal to Atlanta. So those teams are all so dependent on their top guys that I'm going to agree with Evan, though. Washington, to me, that feels like the bet right now. I know. It's just as good as Eagles can get as the season goes along, and same with Dallas. There are questions there across the board where those teams, like, you know, they had questions coming in where Washington, all of our questions about them have kind of been answered, right? We know they have a terrible defense, but it's all about Jaden Daniels in that offense. If he's comfortable, if he's playing like a 5-year vet, that's what he looks like right now. He looks like a guy who's been in the league a long time. He's cool, calm, collective in the pocket. I mean, even their third down play calling is just so smart with him in mind of, okay, we know they're coming after us. We don't have a good offensive line, but I don't want him running the ball. So Cliff just dials it up where he's just making quick out passes, right? And he's accurate with it. So everything I've seen from Daniels, it's like, of all the things that can carry on throughout the season, I could see this offense going throughout the season with Washington. And, you know, this sounds crazy, but this is a division that if you're 10-7, I think you could probably win it, right? I think the Eagles and with Dallas, with their injuries right now on both sides, they could drop a couple of games here early in the season. That's going to be tough to make up as the season goes along. So, yeah, the shocker to me would be Washington. But, you know, there's going to be people out there just like, this guy just hates the Vikings. Because I did coming into the year, I just did not believe in Sam Darnold. I think I haven't talked about it where it's just like that division, that was my biggest reason for not liking this Vikings team. When I looked at the division, I was like, okay, at best, everything goes right. They can probably get third. Like that to me was the top. Now it's like, oh my God, is this team just an absolute juggernaut? Like defensively, when their offense doesn't have it, their defense shows up. When the offense is like, you know, rolling, they look incredible. But you have to think as the season goes along here and they get more tape on Sam Darnold, they'll be able to attack him better. So they're just a team I'm still hesitant about just because it's just been so overwhelming right now, right? I just think it really is peak ceiling. Like everyone loves the Vikings right now. So it's just a team I'm usually wary of because we talk all the time. If you win in, if you're the best team in September, it literally means nothing in football. Like, the Chiefs, are they ever the best team in September? No, they're always the best team in December and January. So I think that's the fear right now with the Vikings. It's been so incredible early on here. Eventually, it's going to go the other way just because that's how football is.
Yeah, I definitely tailed you on all of that Viking stuff because the cap was really good. Like, the cap was really good on it. I'm not even mad. It was really good. And this is a really fun story. I even asked Brandon Anderson, are you believing in Darnold mania? And he predictably, because he's always a sourpuss, was like, no, they're going to come back to earth. So, one more note. It's not going to happen. Do not bet this. But if the Commanders were to pull off one of the most shocking seasons in NFL history and win the Super Bowl with a rookie quarterback, now just hear me out. What I am going to do is I'm going to get a picture of Cliff Kingsbury celebrating that, a giant poster, and send it to Matt Mitchell's house. It's going to be amazing. Like, I'm just going to have it roll up in front of Cliff Kingsbury celebrating the Super Bowl championship. All right, next question. Evan, you bet a team minus 3.5, and you're up 8. 2 minutes left. Okay, 3.5 point favorite. You're up 8, 2 minutes left. The other team has the ball, no timeouts. Pick the quarterback you would want to face on the other side. Any semi-starting quarterback in the NFL currently.
This was kind of easy for me, and it's kind of the reason I set up the question because it's just kind of fun. But Tim Boyle is my answer. He's been absolutely terrible, and even in the short time we've seen him, I don't actually think he's a current quarterback in the NFL, but he has played. So that is my answer. Lowest success rate last 2 years of any QB. He is under a 6 average at the target. He's over minus 6% on completion percentage over expected. He's 0-5 as a starter. There's just so much to work with here. So that is my answer for worst quarterback on the other side of my winning bet.
Yeah, you could just go ahead and turn the TV off and just head on out the door whistling, counting your money there. Simon, what's the one quarterback you want to face if you're betting minus 3.5 and you're up 8 with 2 minutes left?
I would say of the 32 starters, it's going to be Will Levis. I just can't get over how bad this kid is. And if you had that under last night on that Miami-Tennessee game, as soon as he went out, I go, this bet's dead. They're going to hit this over now just because they have someone that's capable of completing third down passes in Tennessee. So that was a brutal beat. There's going to be bad karma coming back to Tennessee. That was an insane running the ball on 4th and 4 to score that touchdown was just mental. So, for me, I was heavy on fading Tennessee coming to the season because I just did not believe in Will Levis. And all I can hope is he stays healthy enough to play the whole season so they can be the worst team in football. So, Will Levis to me, he is just an auto fade the rest of the year.
You know what's funny though? I do have to say this. The person I wanted to say who actually might be the right answer to me at least is Russ. If he was playing quarterback based off of what we've seen, and an old Russ, like a small guy like him trying to play quarterback in this system and trying to run around without being able to run around, he's terrible. But
I would have said that Will Levis is the one that I want if I had minus 9.5 and you're up 8 and they have the ball. Because he's just going to make the single worst decision possible every time. His turnovers are not like, oh man, that's a really bad turnover. It's like, that is the single most catastrophic thing you could possibly do. That is the hugest swing and win probability on a single play. On the other side of this, the odds to win MVP right now, Mahomes plus 240, because apparently interceptions just don't matter anymore. Allen plus 260, Stroud 10-1, Sam Darnold mania at 10-1, Lamar Jackson, repeat winner, 11-1. Who's a player a bit outside of the range that you think will be top 5 at some point in the season? A good old CLV sandwich here.
Yeah, so we had kind of had the same discussion on, I think it was Defensive Rookie of the Year a few weeks ago when like the field was kind of all open and you wanted to try to find somebody really high. I think to answer this question for MVP right now, I wanted to say either Goff at 25-1, but his schedule gets a little bit shakier over the next few weeks, even though we know the stat about him indoors. It's like one game through week 16 or so. So he's probably going to get shorter at some point. The other one I thought that was interesting was Burrow. If you actually just look at the numbers, I mean, he's been absurd this year. I think it's 7 touchdowns, just 1 interception. And he's been really good in Cincinnati. He's put up points, even though his record, he's at 30-1, but a little bit of the wrist issues. The two I think that are just fun, Derrick Henry is like 250-1 right now at some books. So if he continues on this and Baltimore keeps feeding him the ball, and maybe there's not, and Josh drops some games, Mahomes keeps looking this way, Stroud's 0-4 against the spread, even though it doesn't matter in this conversation. It's just maybe there's just a shake up a little bit there. So Henry at 250 to 1, and then Justin Fields is 150 to 1, depending on the book right now. If Pittsburgh keeps winning, if he keeps running, if he racks up touchdowns, those are the two I looked at, other than the Goff and Burrow.
Man, what a narrative swing Fields would have.
Yeah,
going from Bears outcast to MVP. That'd be also very Bears, just painfully Bears in that situation. Simon, your pick.
I'm right there with Evan. I took a position on Joe Burrow just because I like the Bengals this week to pull the upset off against the Ravens. I just think if he has a game where he balls out against the Ravens, he'll be back in the top three. So that's just kind of a little play on me liking them this week and also liking the value on Joe, because it's not his fault they've been bad this year. And I think he'll continue putting up really good numbers just because their defense is so bad. So that was a great pick by Evan there. For my long shot, I got a homer pick. It's going to be Hurts. I just think this is going to be a nice spot with the bye week. He's going to come back. Hopefully Lane Johnson's back. Hopefully Devontae Smith's back and AJ's back. He's got all of his weapons. It's going to be a big deal. And their schedule, if you look at it, it's just easy. Like, you're telling me Washington now is a hard game on their schedule? Yeah, maybe offensively, but their defense is still not that good. So it's like there's gonna be a lot of time for Hurts to put up some good numbers, and if they could turn their season around, I could see him being up for the MVP discussion. But to me, the safest bet, the smartest bet, it's Joe Burrow. It just lines up perfectly with him for the rest of the year, where it's like, guy puts up numbers, he's smart with the ball, has all of his weapons, and he's in a division that if he wins after starting the year 0-3, how do you not give him the award, right? Especially with all he's had to deal with. So I like that play a lot.
I mean, and unlike Mahomes and Allen at the top, Burrow's weapons are so good at making plays for him. Like, Jamar Chase had some absolutely absurd yak stuff. Like, it was nuts last week, the kind of moves that he put on in the open field. I'm talking to Brandon Anderson on Friday for his best bet. So if you want another answer to this, I'll just go ahead and spoil that for you. It's going to be Aaron Rodgers for the 700th time as he goes back to the well. All right, most passing touchdowns allowed in this season. Washington at 10, no surprise. Carolina at 9. This week, they face Deshaun Watson and Caleb Williams. Which quarterback, Watson or Caleb, do you like better for over 1.5 passing touchdowns? Evan, I love this question. This is the extremely movable object versus the completely resistible force. Love it. What's your pick, Evan?
Yeah, that's why I had to ask it, because it felt like it was impossible one way or the other. I went with Caleb. I just think, even though I liked Carolina in that game at the 4, I could see points. Carolina's games are going to be point heavy, as it was against Cincinnati. I think Caleb gets a little bit back on track here, especially, Keenan Allen back another week, get a little more in rhythm with some of your receivers. He's just looked so, I want to call it like he's just a dog running circles in the pocket. Because he feels like he just gets so shaky so quickly. But I think that'll get easier and better over time, even though the system and Eberflus and Waldron and everyone aren't going to help him out. I think he'll get a little better. I'll take Caleb.
All
right, Simon, which of those two wonderful options do you want?
Yeah, I hate them both, so I'll just take the other side to have some talking points. I'll go Watson. I didn't hit for me last week. I've just been fading this Commanders defense and player props for quarterbacks, and I was feeling pretty good when Kyler Murray drove the field first drive, threw a touchdown, then did not throw another touchdown the rest of the game. So that was a brutal, bad beat. But same goes here for Watson. I think, Nick Chubb's supposed to be back this week. I know they're going to use him as a decoy. We've seen it time and time again. These guys come back from these injuries, especially when they're rushing back. He's not going to be the total player he's used to being. So you can just use him as a decoy. So to me, there's a couple ways that Cleveland can use him, get Watson more freed out, hopefully go over the 1.5. It has to be a plus number, right? I mean, he's just been brutal this season. So
I was assuming both numbers were plus, but I don't think they're out yet.
I mean, you're right. Commanders defense is that bad, despite what they did last week. So I'll swallow this one, and I'll just take Watson over 1.5 touchdowns.
Can I take Jameis Winston? Yeah. More touchdown passes than Deshaun Watson? Can I just take that? That's what I would prefer to do. All right, we're going to have you guys pick a touchdown scorer this week from this list of players who have not scored a touchdown yet this season. Jackson Smith-Njigba, Brock Bowers, George Pickens, Tyler Lockett, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Travis Kelce, Brandon Ayuk, or Sam Laporta? Evan, your pick.
I picked Kelsey Monday Night Football. They have no targets left. They're facing a Saints defense that isn't exactly fantastic in certain points in the secondary. I think that there's just no targets left. He's had a terrible, terrible start to the season. It's the right atmosphere in a primetime game where he probably finds the end zone. I'll go with Kelsey.
Okay. I think the big question there that you need to wait on, there's these like late in the season, you want to look for weather and those kind of things.
Yeah.
The biggest thing that you really want to watch out here is whether Taylor's in the building. That's really what you want to.
That's fair.
To look.
Well, since she hasn't been there the last 2 weeks, and perfect timing, Monday night, she'll be there.
She'll be there. All right, Simon, your pick.
Gotta go with my man Brock Bowers. He's just been unlucky. Him and Sam Laporta have both been tackled at the 1 or the 2 yard line twice this season. So just playing the odds here. They're eventually going to score, and I'm going to go with Brock in this game. Just the matchup wise, hopefully Devontae Adams is out again. As a bettor, I hope he plays, but as someone that's betting going to bet Brock Bowers score anytime touchdown, just got to get him the touches down the red zone. And the coaches talked about it last week. They're going to try to design more plays for him. I saw twice last week he either had a carry out of the back, which was pretty crazy, and then he had another play where he was a fullback and then called the ball to the backfield. So I love how they're just moving him around all over the place, this Raiders team. So, yeah, give me Brock Bowers, finally break it, get anytime touchdown.
We both took tight ends. I mean, tight ends have to break through at some point. Maybe it's not. Maybe we're waiting for like tight end week, which happens at some point during the season, but it has to happen at some point.
Can't go over the top for wide receivers because of the 2 deep safeties. Can't go to the tight ends. They can't get in the end zone. Yikes. It's tough out there for those offenses. All right. Big game of the week. Bills off an embarrassing loss on Sunday night where the Ravens just ran the ball down their throat. The Texans are 0-4 against the spread. The tickets are tight. Pick a side on this one, Evan.
Yeah, and it's actually funny. So literally about an hour ago, it flipped. It was Houston -1. Now it's Buffalo -1. So market rolling all over the place, kind of going back and forth. I'll go the Texans. I think I want to see the injury report later in the week, but just an early gut side pick. I'll go against Josh Allen. I wasn't big on Buffalo in the preseason. They started out electric and fantastic. I assume everyone's going to be on them this week off of the loss, especially because Houston kind of got lucky against Jacksonville. So I believe Buffalo will close 1.5-ish. It'll move that direction. People will want to back him off the loss. I'll do the opposite. I'll take Houston.
The first thing I thought of is that trend. I know you're going to spot on the favorites about teams that go from dogs to favorites. I know that that was the first thing that came into my mind.
It's like 71 and 100. So
yeah, that's like the first thing that came into my mind. On the other side of this, though, home teams have been dog shit, so that scares me here too. So I'm terrified here. Simon, help me out. If you're going to pick a side here, what do you like?
Yeah, everyone check out the favorites on Sunday nights. We gave out the Bills +2 before they played the Ravens, just in case they blew out the Ravens. It went the other way. They got blown out, and the number has moved to 3 points. I think it says more about Houston, right? Houston is 3-1 right now with a -15 in point differential. It's just a team that they've won really close games, and then they got rolled when they played, a pretty tough defense in the Vikings. So, I expect it to be a bounce back spot, but I'm with Evan. Like the movement, it's moved 3 points now, and it's like, okay, let me maybe dive into the numbers more and see what the health is of Joe Mixon, because they just have not looked the same offensively since he's been out. But man, that is a lot of respect to give this Bills team. Clearly, the professionals think they are the right side here, and they've come in very heavy here because that's a really big movement to move it 3 points in just 2 days after a team got blown out. So. Yeah, I wanted to be on the Bills, but Evan's right. Now, this number is going to move so much. I'm probably going to have to take the undervalued team here in Houston, especially if this number gets to 2. I mean, people know, once again, how much I love the number 2. It's like, okay, a team that's 0-4 against the spread, now the number has moved 4 points. I'm going to end up on Houston there. So I'll just keep waiting. I'm not going to bet it yet, but if that number keeps going up, I'll definitely be on Houston's side.
Simon, this is probably a stupid question, which will make it good for those listening that don't know any better. Is this a spot where you would maybe look to then tease Houston the other way and you'd have a pretty substantial middle there on this position?
No, because again, I don't like talking money on the favorites because I know most people listen to our show only bet $50 at that time. But unfortunately, I bet Sunday nights, the most I can get down, even my good friends who run sports books out, they'll take my money is $1,000. That's the most I can get down on that number. If I like a side, I might have 30, 40 times that amount on that side come Sunday. So it's like, as much as I want to be like, yeah, I'll hit this nice middle. It's not really like that. It's more like, okay, I loved my early position. Maybe I'll go on the other side if it moves enough, and that'll be my new position. But yeah, like right now, I think I probably have like 4,000 say on the Bills, and I have $0 on Houston. You nailed it though. If this gets up to 2, you're right. I could easily just take a break from that game because I don't have a great read on it. Put 1,000 or another 1,000 on a teaser, get it up to 8, and it's like, okay, that's a nice middle position. So that is something I could do with that game. But if I really end up liking Houston and Evan gives me some amazing trends to really want to back Houston, no, I'll hammer that one out. And it's like, yeah, that's a dead ticket, my earlier bet in the week. But that's just how it works though, right? We do that Sunday night show. I'm just looking for value and how I think the pros are going to move the numbers throughout the week. So it doesn't always line up that way, but that to me, again, it's one of the more bizarre movements of the week. I just can't believe it's moved 3 points. There must be something I'm missing here with Houston that the professionals are really hammering this Bills team.
I'm just jealous because in NBA I can't tease anything ever, and it sucks. Yeah,
you don't want to tease an NBA though.
Nope.
No, God,
you want to take the old spreads, right?
You can't do it ever, and it sucks.
Well, I remember you. I think almost positive it was your show I was listening to, and you guys were talking about like in the playoffs, you just take the -15 spreads. If a team's like -7, it's like no, take the alt, and then on the other side, take the other team to go -8. It's like genius because in basketball, you're right, that happens where teams just get rolled in the fourth quarter.
The thing with the Texans, I keep noticing, like, I feel like they're better. Brandon Anderson feels like they're worse than maybe like market average. And my kind of explanation, I think, is that I pay a lot of attention to like high leverage throws, like those key moments in the game. And it seems like Stroud is like, not great a lot of the time. And then it's like, he really needs to convert this third down, and he pulls something out that's just absolutely awesome. And that I think is influencing me quite a bit.
The bar is just so high though. I think you're just like the general public, right? Where because he did so well his first year.
Yep.
We put the expectations so high, then you're like, okay. And you got Diggs now in this offense. Like there should be no excuse, but you're right. It's like year 2, it ain't going to get any easier. They got a ton of film on them. They're going to make it tougher for him. You've seen it here early on where the defenses are taking away a lot of things he likes to do.
Yeah. So based off of that trend, Bo Nix will throw for negative 500 yards next season. All right, last one before we get out of here. What would you set a Lions Commanders total at right now? Lions offense gets right in a big way versus a tough defense on Monday Night Football. Commanders rolling. All right, Evan, what's the total you would set Lions Commanders at?
The only issue with trying to go so high here is Detroit's defense is like a little okay. Like, you know, their pass rush. There's a few things that aren't absolutely terrible. I was laughing as a joke of 87, but I would probably say like 54. 53 range. I don't know. What do you think, Simon?
Yeah, that feels right. I mean, you know how much it's just tough for me to get above 50 now with the way the league is. Yeah. But these two teams right now, how they're playing, it definitely warrants it. So I would definitely be at the 52, 53 mark. Those are such key numbers that once you get up to that point, the public might, if this was out there, probably bet up to 54, and that's when I'd come in on the under. So
this isn't Chiefs Ravens, Chiefs Rams 2019 or whatever. You know, this is a bit of a different scenario, but yeah, 53.
I would watch that. I would watch every second of that game. Absolutely every. Although I thought the same thing about Cardinals Commanders, and then it was just like a Commanders highlight reel. So,
I'll say this: if it's in Detroit, it's definitely higher. If it's in Washington, it's lower.
Right. Yeah. Golf indoors, man. All right, that's going to do it for this episode. My thanks to Evan Abrams, Director of Research, the man of 1,000 trends. Simon Hunter, you can catch him on the Favorites on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and on the Sunday Reaction Show. Next up is Chris Raybon and Stuckey with their Week 5 NFL betting preview, including the Sunday six-pack that drops right here on Thursday morning. Thanks for listening to the Action Network podcast.